is Rafael Gomes, and I'm here today with David from WAM No Code, and we're going to discuss how WAM and Objective can help you achieve Logistics 4.0 faster and move toward data-driven operations with AI and the best part, without any coding. So before we start, just a quick heads up on our agenda today. So first thing is this, our session will be recorded, so you are aware. This session today will be divided into 3 different parts. So in the first part, I'm going to provide a quick introduction to the challenges in the Logistics 4.0 and explain how WAM and Objective can come in to help you. And this section will be brief, so we'll have time enough for the second part, where David will demonstrate WAM and showcase some of its features, focusing a lot on how fast it is and on some of its AI capabilities as well. And in the end, we'll have some time for a Q&A session. So anything you want to add to that, David?
No, thanks very much, Rafael. Thanks for joining, everyone. As you can see in your Zoom, you will see that there's a Q&A section where you can put your questions into. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions, and we'll get to those in the end. And thanks very much for joining.
Okay, thanks, David. So yeah, so as we all know, not only within logistics, but for all companies, creating software is probably one of the biggest bottlenecks at the moment, right? So especially if you're aiming to achieve a ambitious digital transformation vision, and if you have a lot of software to be built on your backlog. And where does this issue come from? So this basically stems from its connect between what business operations need to achieve Logistics 4.0 and what the IT teams can actually deliver, right? So logistics companies in general, they require a lot of different systems that need to be integrated, and because of that, complex integrations are needed to enable real-time data exchange, and which in the end it's crucial for having operational efficiency. And as these businesses, they seek to automate more of their processes and incorporate AI-driven decision making, the complexity of their IT environments can increase a lot. And in the end, that will require advanced and better integrated solutions. So what is it in essence that the business wants or needs? Well, they want to know everything, which means they will need a lot of data, and they want relevant and easy access to that data, so it becomes information rather than just big strings of bits and bytes. And they also want extensive analytics on top of the data. They want to achieve through orchestration and decision making, which will require in the end accountable AI agents. And based on all of these needs, what challenges do IT teams face on the other side? So very often what we see, it's a significant amount of data that is trapped in silos. These silos can be your ERP, your TMS, your FMS, and so on. And the primary reason is that integrating these systems and extracting the needed information can be extremely costly and also not very fast. And beyond that, there is also a lack of transparency when you look outside your organization. Huge part of your supply chain falls outside your direct control and relies on insights from third-party data sources such as clients, providers, and government. And there's also a general shortage of process-focused applications, and because many of these applications, they're developed by third parties, and they create a lot of generic workflows that you are expected to adapt to rather than offering software that will truly support your specific business processes. And finally, there's AI, right? So AI has been the biggest buzzword in recent years, and many people are still struggling to understand its application. There's always this question, what are we going to use AI for? Everyone knows they need to do something with AI, but this often leads to purchasing AI for the sake of having AI. And there's no clear idea of what the return on investment will be. And what is the final result? So as you know, there are not enough people, time, and budget to build your extensive IT roadmaps, and especially concerning AI, there's a lack of knowledge within organizations to make the expected progress. So where does WHAM and objective come in? We position ourselves as the missing piece of the puzzle that will unite business operations and IT so they can build solutions together and faster. And our focus is on creating fast results for the operation. And in this sense, we believe that we are helping to bridge this the software gap in logistics 4.0. And in the end, what we are looking for is we want to make relevant data accessible at the right time, allowing businesses to make informed decisions, and eventually with the proper foundational layers in place, many of those decisions should be made automatically. And this is perfectly achievable using WHAM as the foundational layer for your logistics 4.0 journey. Yeah, so here what you see is the WHAM modeler. Well, it's a visual development environment that you can open on your browser, and this is what you're going to do. You're going to transform your processes into a model, and then when we turn this model into running software, and you are going to model your processes by dragging and dropping a bunch of different nodes. You can design your flow, interactions with users, save data just like you would do using a traditional programming language. The same goes for creating screens. It's very easy with a simple drag and drop engine. You can follow your process to create the experience you want. Then by clicking the preview button, you can immediately see what your application does in action. And this allows you to craft different experiences and create an end-to-end solution. So now what we saw was just a really small and easy example, something that can be built really, really fast, but it can get quite complicated. So this is a flow chart taken from a client. And as you can see, it's very extensive and has different layers with routines within subroutines and a lot of business logic. So meaning that you can develop really complex applications using WHAM. And what does this offer you in the end? So with a much smaller team, you can achieve 100% of your current results, but 10 times faster than traditional methods. And this is possible because you have access to a flexible and powerful tool that will enable to build anything you need. And WHAM is a really fantastic tool for empowering your business team. This might be the ultimate goal but the advantage of partnering with someone who has one expertise like objective is the ability to accelerate the process, right? So because you'll be working with people who have managed similar projects before, and beyond that, objective also has extensive experience in digital solutions development from the ground up, and also plenty of experience in governance and process engineering, and that will help you to build software on top of healthy and efficient business processes. And finally, here are some examples of companies that you probably recognize. This is a combination of clients from Objective and WEM, and that showcase, a lot of different major enterprises in the US and across Europe. And I want to emphasize the diversity of our customer portfolio because it spans different industries and sizes, and a lot of logistics companies as well. And yeah, and now I'm going to hand over to David. So he's going to talk a little bit about what is Logistics 4.0 and how we can get you on the right track. So please go ahead, David.
Thank you, Rafael. Yes. So what we're going to talk about is Logistics 4.0. What does it mean for you and your organization? And it's sort of, it's a methodology, it's a backbone for guiding your digital transformation. And we're going to do this by starting off by looking at this maturity index. And we will see that there are different steps to achieve 4.0. And what we want to achieve, let me see, is sort of, you want to look around and see, where am I as an organization, right? What do I see around me? Based on that, you recognize where you are in this maturity index, and it gives you an idea what you should be focusing on to get to the next step. And so the first step is this manual and siloed. There's basic digitalization happening. Manual and siloed means, your processes are manual and your data is very siloed, right? You will still see a lot of Excel, email, but also lots of pen and paper still, lots of things still happening via phone. And there's some first basic steps on getting things digitized. If we go to the next step, then we see that things are going to start getting much more connected, and that your data is becoming more and more structured, and that there's also the first steps where there's internal integration happening. And this is where you see your first core systems popping up, your ERPs, your TMSs, et cetera, et cetera. Next step is then, you were working towards visibility and transparency. You start integrating with external data sources, data from your providers, from your clients, up and down your whole supply chain. And you start steering on KPIs based on structured data from the layer below. If you go to the next step, then we want to get intelligent, we want to get automated. So it's where a lot more IoT comes in, a lot more AI comes in, where some decision-making processes or forecasting or planning is being done in an automated way. And it means we have a lot more data, which means that we can be a lot more advanced in the analytics that we do, and have a role there for AI as well. So we get to the last step, and then we really get to, let's say, the holy grail of the situation, which is we want to become autonomous and adaptive. And that's where you get to, really AI-driven orchestration of your organization, and really have process being adapted on the fly. And now we'll get into, I think, sorry, Rafa, I think I need to stop. I think you're controlling part of my mouse still. Let me see if I can turn that off.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's not a problem. I forgot to turn it off. That was my fault. But this is basically the direction of your digital transformation, right? We want to get from this low level of digitalization to true AI-driven orchestration. And if you want to have a look at how do you recognize that, well, companies that are on the left-hand side, they're sort of they see a lot of things happening. The world's going very fast. There's a lot of data flying around, but you're sort of hands in hair trying to, make sense of it. And on their side, if you have everything in order, then your company's basically running itself. Now, it's obviously quite utopic, but that's where we're aiming for. So how do we explain these different steps? So what we're going to look at now is what do you see around you when you are in a certain stage? So part of what I've already mentioned, right? We're in this manual siloed stage. You see a lot of paper. There's a lot of spreadsheets lying around. There's very minimal data exchange between departments, or it's PDFs and emails, and every now and then an Excel that flies back and forth, but really you have no real-time visibility, right? You don't know what your inventory is, you don't know where shipments are, unless you pick up the phone, ask somebody who checks something, who goes and find out something, etc. So in the next step, connected and structure, we see that, core systems come into place, ERPs, TMSs typically are the first ones to come. So your data becomes structured, your data becomes digitized, but it's typically still caught for the most part in those packages. And a lot of times you see different departments have different systems. There's a warehouse management system here, TMS being used there. You will see that every now and then there's sort of first steps of real-time tracking with some sensors that you might have on some containers, for example, but there's really limited predictive capabilities. Next step, we work towards getting this better visibility and transparency. So you want to start sharing data with external stakeholders even. You want to know, where things are before they get to you so that you're ready to receive them, start doing things with them, and then, they go out. Plus, you want to start giving that insight maybe to your clients as well. So we see a lot more real-time tracking. You see automated status updates. There's much more visibility end-to-end throughout your whole process. And there's typically a sort of advanced analytics early use being there. You have better data, it's structured, so you can start forecasting, you can start planning, you can start looking where the risks are based on your historical data. Next step up, you want to become more intelligent on top of that. So when you look around and you say, okay, I'm in this stage, what do you see? You see that there's widespread use of IoT, so Internet of Things, data being generated. There's a lot more robotics going on. There's automation in warehouses, in vehicles, etc. You have predictive analytics, right? You start having models that you have to make those predictions. You can start optimizing based on that. You can start looking at things like predictive maintenance, for example, and all these things are starting to become standard. And this is also where machine learning comes in, right? We have a lot of data. It's in the right structure. We know what we want to start measuring, so you can start modeling what you measure and start using that in your day-to-day to really stay on top of things. Which means things like, we want to see things, things that can go wrong, see them happening before they go wrong, pretty much. And then this last step, as we said, is the Holy Grail. There's sort of holistic, end-to-end view on everything that's happened. A lot of things are self-adjusting, based on data that comes in real time, looks at the models that we've seen in the past, can adjust on the fly. And there's going to be a heavy reliance on AI on sort of different levels, meaning strategically, right? We can start planning a lot more ahead because we have a lot better idea of what is happening, and AI can do a lot, crunch all that data very quickly. Also operational, right? Real-time dispatching, AI agents that are looking at things, that are listening at all the data coming in, taking actions based on that. So we have a decision-making process that is much more reliant on AI. And within that, apart from machine learning, etc., generative AI plays a major role in that as well, in that it's especially useful in facilitating this interaction between our human workers and our machine workers, so to speak, or our virtual workers, because if there's so much data, then it becomes it becomes very difficult to access that data in a human manner just by clicking through it. So you have that interface on top with AI to really dive deep into your data and get the information you need from that. So what sort of tools do you see at these different stages? Well, typically in this first stage, already mentioned, right? Emails, Excels, pen and paper, lots of phones. Next step up, that's where your core systems come in. You know, the usual brand names start popping up on top of ERP, TMS. You have WMS, FMS, all the other three-letter words that are coming in. Next step up, we want to go to visibility, transparency. You see transportation management systems, route planning systems, systems that can do predictions on demand planning for you, and you might recognize some of these names here. And you will see that some of the providers, they have something for each step as well. When we go a next step up, there's a lot more IoT data happening here. So rather than use different dashboards from different device providers, you want to have your own IoT brokers. There's a couple mentioned there. You want to have much more predictive analytics running on top of it. You want real-time route planning happening, and you can probably recognize some of the names in this step as well. We go one step further towards autonomous and adaptive, and we see that we get to, what they call the control towers, right? Things that are monitoring everything that's happening all the time and that can adjust things on the fly. This can be organization-wide, or it can be specifically for autonomous driving vehicles, or it can be orchestration for things to do with route planning and supplies, and an automated warehouse and everything ready. So again, there's a whole bunch of new logos that start popping up. What you see is if you want to have all of this covered, there's really quite a lot of things that you need to have in order. And generally what you see is that on top of that, because every organization is different and a lot of what these packages offer is standard, you see that there's a lot of tinkering around that's going to happen, and what we call sort of the costly custom that happens. It's these trajectories that you've all known and experienced possibly, where, you know, there's consultants that come in, they have to retool, they have to adjust, they have to train, et cetera, et cetera. It takes months, costs a lot of money. It becomes even more convoluted, this landscape, and even more difficult to maintain from the IT side of things. So this is sort of what you would want to do, right? Is you want to sort of skip ahead all the way to the end, but that's never going to happen. So what really needs to happen is that you want to take these steps up, and you want to take them in the least painful manner possible. Let's put it that way. Now, before we dive a little bit deeper into how no-code and agentic AI could help with these, making these steps more achievable, there's one more core idea that I want to talk to you about very quickly, or that I want to cast to you, is that the idea of a clean core. Basically what this means is that your core systems, you want to keep those as clean as possible. You don't want to make too many adjustments to it, start tinkering with them too much, because what tends to happen is if that you start customizing your core systems, or any system for that matter, and there's an update from the provider, some of these adjustments, some of these integrations will not work anymore. And so they will stop you from moving up to the next version, or maybe you move up to the next version and a whole bunch of things stop working. So if you keep your core applications definitely clean, then you're much more future-proof on that front, and you have a much smoother trajectory throughout this. So that's a concept I want to leave with you there. So where should you be focusing on? So we're going to go through these stages again, and this time looking at it from a different angle. Like, if I am in this stage, what do I need to look at to get up the ladder, and how can WEM, no-code, and objective help with that? So the first one, when you're in this stage of basic digitalization, you want to go from manual to digital, you want to go from spreadsheets to databases, you want to go from unstandardized data to standardized data, you want to go from unvalidated data to validation data. And so we see cases like with this client of ours in Europe. Very simple application, time registration system. It was something that was happening partially manually. Then, it was a call at the end of the day. These are people that are working in the field, doing lots of jobs in different places, and they have to report their hours. And it needs to go to a team leader, and then they need to report it up the chain. And people at the top, they want to have visibility of that. And it was just taking too many steps. So this was very simple. They made an application, mobile element to it. You just log in, you say, I've done this many hours, automatically it gets saved, it gets joined, all the information, and people up down this chain have to do just less things with it, and you have digitalized data. Very simple example. Next step up, right? So we want to look at system integration. We want to get different platforms together. We want to have the data flow throughout our own organization. We want that data to be structured, and we really want to start establishing KPIs that we can steer on. So an example of that, TSN Groen, a green-focused logistics group in the Netherlands. They wanted to build some systems around their core platforms, right? They wanted to keep their core clean, start building some applications that had especially to do with resource planning. Logistics, as you all know, one day you need a lot of people, a lot of trucks, etc., and the next day you don't. So they wanted to be much more predictable in that. And so what they did is they started building a couple of microservices around their ERP that helped them get more visibility, that helped them keep that structured data intact, that helped keep their truth in their ERP, and build processes or applications to support processes around them, which gave them a lot smoother flow and allowed them to keep their core clean. And now, in fact, they are building their WMS with WEM. Visibility, transparency, collaborative, share data, break all those data open, start interchanging data with your partners, move from reactive to proactive. Very good example. This is a big retailer who are in 50+ countries worldwide. They needed to have better visibility on their whole supply chain. They have a lot of packaging, repackaging, labeling, relabeling, all the way from suppliers on the other side of the world, all the way to Europe, the Americas, you name it. And they tried to do this by adjusting things in their ERP, and it just cost, you can imagine the zeros both on the time and on the cost. And eventually they said, hey, let's try WEM. We did a WEM-a-thon with them, in 1 week, a couple of people from our side, people from their side. We said, all right, let's test this. Let's see if we can do this, 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 and this. And so what they built is sort of a spine that runs through their whole supply chain that gives all of their own people, but also their partners, direct insight into what is coming, what needs to be ready, what needs to happen at which point in time, and have real-time access to that data throughout the flow. And there's integration with, top of my head, I think there's SAP, their ERP. There's about 4 or 5 different WMSs. Some of them are there, some of them are third-party logistics providers, some of them are from their manufacturers, all of them connected, in total more than a dozen different systems that feed data into there, keep their data intact, and have this information available for people up and down the chain. Intelligent, automated, so yes, advanced algorithms, you want to start scaling up IoT data. Good example from the world of financial leasing. Return process for lease cars used to take 22 days, from the moment that a meeting was booked to inspect a vehicle at the end of lease. Then it took 22 days for them to be able to sell it. Each day, costs double digits per car. They have, 50,000 cars per month passing through in a single country when they started. And you can start multiplying that, seeing how much this is worth. So the first thing they did was start looking at, all right, there's a lot of departments that are working with it. And can we replace this process of booking in an inspection, doing an inspection, doing calculation? Can we replace this with an application? and integrate AI. So what the AI is doing, or what the platform does, is it allows people end of lease, walk around their car, take a video, upload the video, AI analyzes the video, calculates the rest value, and within 2 days, the car is already ready to be sold on a secondary market. So there's a huge time saving and a huge cost saving achieved in 7 or 8 months in total, from going from first iterations to final iterations. And then, yes, this autonomous adaptive, you really want to get a resilient, adaptive supply chain, continuous improvement, self-learning systems, and feedback loop. And this is really where WEM Agentic AI comes in. And this is new features that we've launched or shown to the world for the first time 2 weeks ago. Orchestrated swarms of AI agents, virtual workers that can look at things where they are happening, how they can monitor things, and first use cases are coming very soon on that. And hopefully, we'll be able to talk to you about these kind of use cases soon as well. So just to wrap things up, how do you approach this? You want to keep a clean core and see how WEM can help you out with that. So what we'll see then is that we maintain this clean core. We start reducing the amount of things on this side. And so if you're still sort of towards that side of things, then maybe you build a first application that just starts digitizing processes. Then, you pick a lane, so to speak, an ERP, for example, and you start building microservices around that can start solving issues. So that can be a first use case we look at together. Next up, all right, maybe there's an extra system that comes into play, but you still have some gaps there that you can fill, again, with building very specific applications for specific processes. And first use of AI here, which is standard integrating in our platform. Then, yes, maybe you have an IoT broker that comes into play. You will still need to have some applications built, maybe some dashboards that you want to build, and the odd AI agent that comes into it as well. And then the last step, maybe there's another 2 or 3 systems that come on top. Maybe there's a few more gaps that you say, hey, here we can really do something that manages data, allows access to data, maybe interconnect some systems, and you'll see that there's a lot more of these agents that can start popping up. So that's what we really want to get to, right? Is instead of having to buy all these systems, having these very painful migrations and very painful trajectories, is that, look for specific value and we start working on that. So let's start small and grow fast, but always create impact. And I will hand over to Rafael for some closing thoughts before we can go to the demo.
Yes, thanks, David. Yeah, so
you're welcome.
As you could see, guys, achieving logistics 4.0 is a journey, right? It doesn't need to happen overnight, but it has to start somewhere. And we hope that we brought insightful information that will help you move forward. And one important thing that David mentioned already is that starting simple. It's very, very important, because there will always be items in your backlog that we can consider as quick wins. Those items that are cheap, they are easy, and they will deliver a return of investment quickly. So let's have a conversation about how we can pick those low-hanging fruits and ensure that we are creating impact. And and this is how we usually engage with customers. So we start simple, and a Webathon, it's an excellent starting point. So it's basically a 40 to 120-hour engagement where we can collaborate on a rapid prototype. And the main goal of this would be to create proof of value and then scale. And after that, it's about scaling quickly based on the proof established, gaining momentum and then closing the loop. So this is a very agile and lean approach where we can try something together, we can learn from it, we repeat, and we keep innovating. And how do we get started? So I guess you can reach out to us. We can discuss your challenges. Let's have a conversation and see web in action. We'd love to demo based on your specific use case and whether your challenges are big or small. I guess the most important thing is let's pick something and discuss where the value is and begin from there. So yes, and I guess that's it. David, I guess we can move to the demo.
Perfect. Thank you, Rafa.
Thank you.
Let me see if I can stop sharing. Excellent. Thank you very much. So I will now move ahead and share my screen to show you guys the WEM modeler. Just a second. Yes. I think if Rafa, you could just confirm, I think, yeah, you should be seeing my screen. Excellent.
I can see
all right. Thank you. So what we're seeing here is the WEM modeler, right? This is our development environment. We've prepared a demonstration for today. So we've pre-built part of an application, and we're gonna go through different features of the modeler, and we're gonna try and show as well those let's say those 4 or 5 steps that we've seen in the index, right? We want to maybe do basic digitalization of a process. We want to start looking at integrations. We want to start looking at KPIs and analytics. Then we want to start moving towards AI and towards orchestration. So I'm going to try and hit on most of those in the next sort of 20 minutes, and then we can get to the answer. So what you're seeing is it's my browser. It's a standard browser, HTML5, any old browser you can open the WEM modeler on and start working in WEM. I just have a nice full screen browser to do demos on. And what you see is that we have a project here. In this project, we have a bunch of flowcharts. There's a whole bunch of tabs available here as well. And what happens in these flowcharts is that you have different nodes available. You connect those nodes. And with that, you start creating a model of your process. And then that model, as Rafa said quite a while back, our platform basically turns that model into a functional application. So we have different nodes. This is, for example, an interaction node. It's basically a screen, and as you can see, there's no content there yet. So if you want to see how this looks in the final application, I have this button here called Preview, and when I click on that, it's going to load up our application, and we see that that's exactly what we saw before. And we see that we've got a few different areas that we've already built up. We have some locations for our fictitious logistics company here. They're being shown on a map already. We have some basic information in here. Then we have some containers. That we have some IoT data on there. We have some functionality here that we'll get to a little bit further. But basically, there's containers at our locations being loaded, unloaded. Then there's a bunch of them that are in transit that have IoT data that is attached to them, such as where are they at this moment, how fast are they going, what's the temperature, etc., etc. And so we see that we have another section here for orders, and there's nothing in that section yet, and that's where we're going to start building. So what if we want to start adding some orders here? We see that we have a empty flowchart. So the first thing we can do is drag in another interaction node and say, all right, this would be my orders overview. So this would be the basic digitalization, let's say. So I connect that with an arrow, and I can start adding all kinds of elements, right? I want to have this in a nice little panel. I want to maybe change some of the styling of this. And before we can, have anything, I mean, we can go back and have a look at it now. So if I click on orders overview, we see that, yes, there's a panel, nothing in there. So next step is to start working with our data. And working with data, you do in your data model. I have a whole bunch of lists of data that we can play around with, and we can start adding to that. So for example, I have a bunch of orders here, or at least a list for where orders can go. And I can drag these in here, for example, if I want to show them. So I can say then, maybe show me the order ID, show me the date, and show me the transit time or something. I can just pick and choose what I want to show. The order in which I click on them is the order in which they get presented. And if we go back here, we see that we now have a list of orders appearing where there's nothing in there. But, we already have our columns there. So how would I add an order? Easiest way is always to think together with the process that you're following. So what do I need to add an order manually? Well, I need a button. So I add a button and say add order. And we can give that a nice little icon. And again, I can save, I can go back, and we can load, and we see, all right, now we have a button to add an order, but the button doesn't do anything yet. So next step is I go back to where I want to put my logic. So if somebody clicks on the button add order, what is it that I want this application to do? Well, I want to do something with my list of orders. So I drag that in, and then I get a whole bunch of options available. In this case, we want to add. Next up, we want to be able to input some data. So I'm going to build a screen with a form for the order details, for example. Order details. And I'm going to show that as an overlay, as a nice little pop-up. Now, after I've put in the details, I want to save that, or maybe I want to be able to offer a cancel option for my users. And this is basically the steps in my little process to add an order, right? So all that's left now is that I need to connect these different nodes. So if I draw an arrow from my screen to my add row, I see my button appear. So that's going to be the connection here. This is a direct connection. This, I don't have an exit yet. I don't have a way to get out of this screen to the next one. So I can make one, call it save, and I'll make a connection here as well. And we will call that cancel. And so now we go back to the beginning, and then our little process is finished. All that is left is that I need to add these fields in there where I can put in the ID, the date, how much it represents in total. I can also add some further fields to this if I wanted to. So maybe I want to have like a country of origin. You name it, I can always add different types of fields. You see that we have different field types, which means that your data gets validated as in, this needs to be text, this needs to be a number. Also, it can be, we have standard validation rules to look at the structure of the data that's been input. And we can even make custom validations. For example, if we have an order ID, that's always, 2 letters, a dash, and 4 numbers. We can go, as complicated as it needs to be. But let's for now just add a country of origin. Let's add this over here as well. And we add our 2 buttons. So we do save. We do cancel. And this way, we can add some orders now. So let's add an order. Put in a number. Let's make it for today. Let's put in some time as well. It's going to be 240 hours. And let's say that it comes from the US. So this is very basic. This is how I would add manually something. Next step, I want to show you very quickly how we could integrate with a different system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a flow chart where I can import some orders. Now I can deploy this in different manners. I could start adding this to my other flowchart and start drawing an arrow over here. And so I can start really building and recycling bits and pieces of logic. But the easiest way is actually to just drop it in over here. and it'll automatically become a button. Right, so what do we want this flow to do? Now I want to, let's say that I want to pull out orders from my ERP. I have here a source with mug data, and there's just a bunch of orders, not too much data in there, but we have some data available. And this is the structure. This is a JSON message. This is how something would come out of an ERP, for example, through a REST API. And we can connect with anything through REST APIs, SOAP connections, OData connections, raw HTTP connections. We're very versatile on building your own connectors. So we can copy this URL, go back to the modeler and say, hey, I want to make a request to get some data. And then I can paste in here my URL. What you're seeing now is our expression editor. Basically, you can have access to a whole bunch of functions, very similar to Excel functions. And if you wanted more information, you can go straight to the documentation about this. So I just want to pull this one in. I want to keep this JSON data somewhere temporarily. Then I want to import it. I know that's in the form of JSON message, and then I need to make the mappings. Now I can do these mappings manually, or I can let the system do it for me. And this is where WEM sort of facilitates making any connection completely custom in a very simple manner. So I paste the structure in here, click OK, and WEM says, all right, well, you have a list with all of these fields, and mapping the data is just a matter of dragging over all these fields that I want to know, the ones that I'm interested in, yes or no. So I can have this order date. And I think it's day, month, year, month, day. So I can tell it that it should expect the date to come in this way, and there you go. So next step, I save my data and I finish up. And with this, within a couple of minutes, all of a sudden, we've connected to an external system. We've pulled in data from that external system, and I can now go ahead and import those. So we'll see that now I have this button, import orders. I can click on it, and all of a sudden, we're going to have a whole bunch of new orders available in our system, and they don't have transit times. But how many orders do I have? I can start really moving towards sort of analytics, dashboarding, and so on. So maybe I want to have a simple count of how many orders we have in our system now. And maybe let's make this not show so many. And I think they had a total, all of them from the API that we pulled in. So I can start, really updating my application on the fly. And you see, we had one manual and we pulled in 1,000 orders, and we can see that there's now more information available, where we can start saying things like, all right, show me 1,000 separator, show me 0 decimals, and you can really adjust your experience over here. So next step, I want to go back to the home screen, and I want to start showing you how we can do some analytics. Now, I've pre-prepared some things so we don't have to do these basic steps again. One of the things that WIM allows you to do is that you can make fragments, even, so I can make fragments of logic, but I can also make fragments of pages. So I have a dashboard here pre-built. And what you will see is that it's very simple, right? Your X category, it's basically your location. The y-axis is a value that is being counted by a process, which is basically adding up how many containers are in different parts. And we have some other fields that are showing, which are the series, what is the color for each one. So I could use this one and say, instead of this thing that says no content, let's take that out. Let's put this in. Let's save it. Oh, and go back over here. And now we will see that all of a sudden we have a lot of locations and a lot of activity in Nashville at this point in time. But you also see that we can you know, these things can be dynamic, show you for a single location. So these are what are called widgets. You saw those before. We have a whole bunch of libraries with different widgets that can do anything from embedded video conferencing, showing process steps in a process where something is in a process, or we saw this Google Maps come around earlier as well. That's also a widget. So we have a whole bunch of widgets available that you can use. Plus, you can make your own widgets as well. Now, I see that I'm running a little bit late, but I don't want to rush too much. What I want to show you is a little bit of a sneak peek of what AI can do within Web. So I've prepared a little bit of an option here to start asking questions of your data. So what WEM allows is to integrate AI as in when you need it, right? It's not just, oh, let's throw AI on everything. You know, somewhere in our containers overview, you see that there's a button. It allows you to ask questions of your data that's wrapped into this flow. And you see that it is using actually this one as well. And so this is where we export some some IoT data. We export some location data. We ask a model to interpret that and send us an answer back and add that to a conversation. So this results in what we're going to see here. So I could ask, for example, how many containers are in, let's say, Charlotte, and what IDs do they have? And it will tell me, well, actually, you know, there's 8 containers in Charlotte, and this data is actually synthetic data that's being updated all along. And you see, all right, these are the containers that are there. But I could also say, give me all details on container 65, for example. And it'll give me extra information about this container. And then we could actually ask something like, you know, how many containers in the USA are going faster than 75, to see who's speeding. And we see that there are 6 containers and they're all heading to Nashville that are going faster. So this is very basic, but it allows you, again, that next step, right? How do I drill down? If I have historical data, then I can start asking questions about, you know, trends that are happening, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the next step up are these AI agents. And I'm going to talk about this because this is not part of the demonstration for today, but I want to give you a sneak peek, and please reach out. We would love to show these in action to you as well. But basically what these are is that they are virtual workers that you start creating, and you give them, you know, you give them a certain job description, you pick a model that you want to use underneath, you say how truthful or how strict they need to be with the rules. You can give them context, right? So you give them access to certain data, yes, other data, no. So you can be very safe and secure about how your data is being handled. And then you can start making functions for them. Functions are basically, it's a toolkit, right? In this case, very simple one. It returns a list of containers and certain data points about this. So the AI knows that if I want to do an analysis on a certain date of what is happening, okay, then I need to use this tool that I have. But these tools can be a little bit more complicated as well, and you can start making a whole toolbox for your virtual worker. And for example, what you do is that you say, okay, you can look at some containers and then start marking some for inspections. So you see that here it's going to a certain row where the ID matches what is the parameter from the AI, right? That it's listened to. It then creates an inspection. It starts assigning some fields within that inspection and starts saving things. So you see that part of the process runs in the intelligence of your large language model, but the rest of it runs locally. And so there's a really sort of a firewall between the data that the data access, the process access, etc. So you really have agentic orchestrated AI with guardrails, so that you can implement this where you need it, either actively through a chatbot, as we saw before, or passively, where it can start listening to data and start running certain processes for you, always with that same ease and that same punctuality of implementing them. I think I'll stop there and see if we have some questions. I have a couple here already. Yeah, I have a question that I see here on cloud options. So what options are there for hosting applications with WEM? Rafael, if you allow me, I will take this one. So yes, there are different modalities in which you can use WEM to build applications and consume your applications. And it can be either in a shared environment, right? We have a shared environment in the US that's available to run your applications from. We also have options to have a dedicated environment for you. So you can have a partner like Objective provide you with both cloud and platform as a service from which you run only your applications. You know, in the shared environment, we have multiple clients sharing that environment with separated data, of course, but you can have a specific one for yourself. Or you can go one step further to our enterprise model, and then you can move to, you know, you have your own Azure cloud, you have your own AWS, you have your own Google Cloud, et cetera, that you want your applications to run into. And the way that our platform is built is that it's extremely flexible in where it can land. And we have clients already doing that. Even clients running on their own bare metal with VMware on top and different versions of Kubernetes, which is how our platform can get deployed. So I hope this answered that. I have another one here. Go ahead, Ralph.
Yeah, there's another one here. So about the Wematon, if it's really possible to deliver something functional in a matter of weeks. I guess because I mentioned 40 to 120 hours. Yeah, so that's a very good question. The Wematon, it's I would say it's our preferred way to engage with our clients and create a fast proof of value. And it's a very, very fast initial engagement that will involve the purchase of license and services, and we'll be focusing on basically two different things. So first one, it's solving one of your current challenges. So we are going to work specifically on a use case during this time frame that can be 2 to 4 weeks. And yes, it's incredible what you can achieve within this time frame. And very often what happens is that we not only achieve the initial goals, but there's some time to focus on extra stuff. And the second goal of the Wematon is to start the enablement of your business operations team to use WEM, or whatever business team that is, supporting and engaging with us. And what usually happens in the end is that after solving the first use case, clients end up expanding and adopting one for other solutions. So with a small budget, you can achieve a lot very, very quickly. So definitely a win-win situation for everyone. Hope that answers as well.
Thanks, Rafa. I see we've hit our time, but I want to take this last one and also thank everybody. A question about licensing and how the WEM licensing works. So basically there are 3 major elements to that, and it has to do with how many users, how many people are going to be using an application that you build with WEM, how many applications you build. It's an enterprise license, so you can have multiple applications within your bucket, so to speak. And the other one is cloud, right? Where does it run? Does it run on our infrastructure? Does it run on your own infrastructure? What kind of services are needed on top of that? But you have those, let's say those 3 levers that you can play around with. And what I would say is that, yeah, please contact Rafael or myself after the webinar, and we'd be more than happy to look at your specific case to make it fit. And I think I'll leave it there. Rafa, I don't know if you have anything to add, or
No, I
you're
guess
happy for us to.
Yeah, just wanted to thank everyone who joined, and I guess that's it. We are running out of time.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks, Rafael and your colleagues from Objective for having us. I hope it was interesting. I know there will be a video available shortly as well, so have a look out for that on LinkedIn as well. And yeah, please reach out and tell us how we can help.
Yeah, thanks, David. See you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.